So CanyonChasers just put out a video called Motorcycling Isn't Dying, We're Killing It. And he touched on some really good key points, some stuff that I've been really thinking about for a while. Basically, motorcycles are getting extremely expensive. There's not enough new riders coming into the United States riding scene, I guess if you want to call it. And it got me thinking because what I do a lot here is motorcycle training. So I wanted to watch it and I watched it and some amazing points. So I kind of want to go over some of that stuff on an after the ride kind of podcast. So this is not going to be a crash or after action type video that I typically do on my live streams. But he had some major key points here, and it's basically motorcycling is shrinking in the United States, but it's growing everywhere else. The rider demographic is aging out. So basically, the median U.S. Rider age is about 47 years old. It was 32 back in 1990 and 40 in 2009. So it's pretty crazy. The cost is a major barrier, and I think that's going to be one of the bigger ones. I think that plays into a lot of the other things, and I want to talk a little bit about that. And he mentions motorcycling lost its cultural identity. There's some gatekeeping, some toxic culture, and then basically e-bikes and mini bikes. And that's going to be a big one that I want to talk about because that's something I've been thinking about when it comes to brand new riders. So that's like the main focus that I do here is how to teach brand new motorcycle riders how to be the safest they possibly can. And then that way, after 10 years of riding, they have instilled these foundational principles. But let's go ahead and just kind of dive into one of the major topics here. And is it shrinking? It's some stuff that I've been dealing with and trying to look forward to or trying to figure out when it came to the new book that I'm coming out with, which is going to be Riding Smart. It's a motorcycle educational book that's coming out. Still working on it, kind of finishing it up. But I was like, is there even a market? And I've noticed that there's a lot of, not a lot of growth. Yeah, that's really what I want to say. There's not a lot of growth in the United States. Like I said, it's growing everywhere else. Motorcycle sales have dropped quite a bit. He mentions in his video that it's dropped about 9% in early 2025, which is the weakest in a decade. So that's pretty crazy that he was able to find that information. That's something that I saw too. I didn't think it was that much. There's still quite a bit of sales. Somewhere that I've read, I'm not going to put up the stat or anything, but it's basically like 400,000 new motorcycles a year, but not a lot of them are going towards new riders. So that's kind of a scary point there. But yeah, there's basically just dying in the United States. Everywhere else treats it, riding motorcycles like it's a mode of transportation. What I've noticed is that in the United States, we treat motorcycle riding as kind of like a fun thing, like an asset, something that if you have disposable income, you do. And only back in the day, at least when I first started riding, is that you got a motorcycle because it was cheaper than getting a car, and the insurance was cheaper and everything like that. That's why I started riding, because I couldn't afford a brand new vehicle and I can afford a motorcycle, and that's all I needed to get back and forth. So that's kind of how I started. But what I'm noticing since 2020, and this is what he talks about in the major barrier, which is cost, is that since 2020, motorcycle prices have jumped 40%. That's absolutely insane, and there's a lot of that inflation stuff when it comes to the United States, specifically when it came to the Biden and the what was it, the Inflation Reduction Act, basically just printing a lot of money. The United States has been doing it. Trump and everybody. We don't have to get into politics, but basically the United States just keeps printing money, so it's making everything cost more. It's making it harder to actually buy an asset. Even though it's a depreciating asset when it comes to motorcycles and cars and all that stuff, it's still an asset. So those things climb in price while your wages don't, and then it just gets super expensive. So new bike prices, yeah, definitely have jumped up. Insurance is going crazy. And so you start getting to a point where it is a major barrier. And if we start thinking about, the rider demographic aging out, well, like he said, it was the median U.S. rider age is about 47 years old, and it's been going up. From 32 in 1990 to 40 in 2009 to 47 now. I start thinking a lot, because I'm looking at housing and a bunch of other stuff, is that the same thing with housing. The median age is like a lot higher than it was back in the day. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the older generation, or at least the older people in the world, or the United States specifically. They have more money to accumulate during this time. So now they finally get to buy a motorcycle. Or buy a house. So I think that's why the median age is going up, because the costs are going up. So it's leaving a big gap for new motorcycle riders, because a lot of the new motorcycle riders that are excited about it that really want to get into it. And it's like one of the first big things they do. The younger generation, like, 18 to 25 to 30-year-olds, they just can't afford it. Just can't afford it. Can't afford a motorcycle. Can't afford gear. Can't afford training. Can't afford any of that stuff. And that's why I work so hard to create motorcycle training that is free on YouTube and then low cost. And that's why I'm working on the new book where you can basically skip the MSF. I think the average cost for the MSF across the nation is $350. It can be less, it could be a little bit more, but about the average is $350. So I'm creating a book where you can just train at home, and it's gonna be way cheaper. It's a fraction of the cost, at least three quarters. I don't know. I can't do math right now, but it's gonna be way cheaper. And that's part of the reason is because I noticed that a lot of people will buy the motorcycle and not get the gear because now it's just, they spent their whole budget on the motorcycle, not get the gear and then not get training. So they're just kind of winging everything. So my goal is to hopefully make it a reduced cost when it comes to the training side. I can't build motorcycles. So like that's what I'm starting to see is cost is definitely a major barrier when it comes to that stuff. So I agree with him on that. The cultural identity, he says that it used to represent freedom, rebellion, and adventure, and I think it still does. I think it still does. I think there is a flip towards, we go from wants and like fulfilling our identities and needs, like, hey, I'm a free person, I'm rebellious, I want adventure, so I can afford to, buy something that will help me deliver that identity and become that identity. Well, now when things get tough financially, it's like I still feel that way, but I just can't afford the thing that's going to help me achieve that. And I think that's where we start getting into some issues because, like, what do we do? You kind of start feeling lost, lack of identity, kind of like the same job opportunity stuff. It's like, hey, I'm a firefighter and I want to be a firefighter. And like, this is how I am, but there's like no job opportunity. So it's like, oh, now I feel crappy because I'm not a firefighter. So there's that lost identity, but you still embody those traits. It's just that you don't have a way to utilize them. And so without, having cheaper motorcycles, you can't really utilize that freedom, rebellion, and adventure type feel. So that's pretty tough. But he got into something that really it started making sense with me. That's why I have 5 e-bikes. I started collecting them because I wanted to start making some e-bike training because I started to see the amazing benefit of e-bikes. So that's what he talked about. He talked about electric mini bikes and e-motos are the new gateway. And I think that's dead on. I think it's dead on. He was mentioning how smaller CC bikes were kind of the original gateway, the scooters, and then you've upgraded to bigger bikes, and that was kind of like your journey through motorcycling. And I believe that smaller section, since everything kind of got up higher in price, it left a gap. It didn't expand; it just moved. The scooters moved in price, not expanded. And so when it left that gap, business wise in the marketplace, somebody was like, "Hey, how about we just make e-bikes?" Obviously, there's more thought into that, and that's filling that gap. And I recognize that, so I bought some Super 73s, very expensive bikes. They're way cheaper now. But I loved riding my Super 73. I loved riding my e-bike almost more than riding my motorcycle. It made me feel when I was riding in a neighborhood or like to work and back and just kind of just cruising. It made me feel like I was young again, riding through the neighborhood on my BMX bike. But now I don't have to pedal and I can go faster. And it was less dangerous because it's on the road because of vehicles. I was going the same speed as every vehicle in the residential neighborhood, which is 25. But it was a little bit more dangerous when it came to braking, swerving, a bunch of other stuff. So there's some trade-offs there. But I was doing all that and it got me thinking, it's like, I really want to make some motorcycle training or some e-bike training videos about this. But I just kept riding and riding and riding. And I was like, man, you don't need a license. There's no anything really. There's like, maybe there's some a little bit of legislation on like level 1, level 2 type bikes, pedal assist, push, like they're starting to come out with that stuff. But back then there was nothing. You can ride it in the bike lane. You can ride it on the streets. If you're not impeding traffic, other things like that. Here in Tucson, we have a thing called the Loop, and it's just a massive loop of a bike trail that goes all across town. I mean, I rode 20, 30 miles one time. Just, I went to Chick-fil-A and back, and it was like, this is great. And yeah, so I believe that's going to be the thing at the beginning. That's what's going to get people. It used to ride bicycles. One of the prerequisites for the MSF is, before you can even get into the BRC1, is that you have to know how to ride a bicycle. Like, so to me, that logical progression of riding a bicycle to now riding a motorcycle, now that's the progression. You learn new things with the motorcycle, and that's one of the progressions for me. I love road riding on a bicycle, like a road bike, and then I went to motorcycling. And I really do think it's going to be bicycles, e-bikes, and then motorcycles. And that's a logical progression. You start off on a bicycle, you can ride an e-bike, then you can ride a motorcycle pretty well. But each one has its own limitations when it comes to that financial part. And so e-bikes are definitely going to be a great bridge when it comes to new people getting into motorcycle riding, or staying with e-bikes if that's all they absolutely need. So it's kind of like somebody getting a 300cc bike. I don't need a bigger bike because I don't ride out of town. I don't ride on the highway. It's just kind of putting around, kind of a thing. So you don't have to upgrade unless you absolutely want to or need to. And I think e-bikes are going to be a great gateway. But one of my biggest things here, and this is going to be something I want to kind of like point off a little bit different from his video, which is great, by the way. It's going to be linked in the description, so hopefully you guys check it out, is that I always have a concern when it comes to safety. I'm always going to come from the safety standpoint. And with motorcycles, yeah, they have MSF. There's all these different organizations that will teach you. There's plenty of books out there. I'm just trying to create an alternative with the new book I have and the Smart Rider drills that I currently have, so check it out if you want to. Links are in the description for that stuff. There's a major gap, since this is a brand new emerging thing, e-bikes, and it's starting to really catch on. There's no training around it. Now, it's like, do you need training? I mean, you don't necessarily need training when it comes to, bicycles and whatnot. But, what kind of training should you get for an e-bike? Well, I mean, it's basically a motorcycle. So you're going up to 30 miles an hour. Like he was saying, is that you can juice it up to you're basically going 70. I have a friend that has a Suron that can go 70. And so there's some major issues when it comes to that, because you're braking, you're swerving, your acceleration, how you're riding, where you're riding, what kind of gear you're wearing. Those are the kinds of things that I'm concerned about. So I've been working on something for a while, just a major idea about some e-bike training, and kind of focusing a little bit on the e-bikes as it's a bridge towards motorcycling, because there's a lot of the same training principles with the Smart Rider principles and what I teach for plan method and everything that can be applied to to e-bikes. So my biggest concern with all of this is, yes, I believe e-bikes are going to be a great gateway to motorcycling. I think as those e-bike riders that are between 15 and 30 accumulate their skills on the e-bike and accumulate through their jobs, and hopefully the economy does well, that they're going to be able to purchase a motorcycle later in life. I wish we could be able to purchase motorcycles right at 18, but it is what it is, and that's how the world's working right now, that it's getting kind of nuts when it comes to finances and whatnot, so that kind of sucks. But, hopefully we can keep the spirit of two wheels and people riding motorcycles or riding two wheels alive by filling in those gaps with some more economic or economically safe things. You don't want to go into massive debt for a motorcycle if you're 18, especially with everything involved. So hopefully e-bikes, some more structure kind of comes around it. I don't want any government involved in that, but hopefully there's some more structure when it comes to like training and everything like that. And if nobody's doing that, I'm going to start doing some of that stuff. That's kind of my thought on some of this stuff. So if you want to check out his video, please do so. It's really good, well put together. But I just had some thoughts. This is my way of basically, instead of writing a YouTube comment, and I did, but instead of me writing a YouTube comment, might as well do like a conversation. I'm trying to think about it. I wonder if you guys have the same ideas. Write comments in there, go to his video, and yeah, I'll see you guys on the next live stream.